is Rick, and I buy a 2006 Honda Civic SI. So the reason why I buy the SI is because a friend that's in Jamaica went to Jamaica and he left me with the car for about 2 weeks. What I liked about it, it just drives smooth and nice. For me, I'm a guy, I love like fast cars, I love loud noise. The car exhaust was like beautiful. But this SI was at the shop park and no one was looking at it. So I'm like, take my time work on it. Even though sometimes I get fed up, I slam the hood and I walk away, leave it, and then I go back to it. But the reason why I'm getting it because I see a lot of SI in Ontario, especially Toronto, and they're really beautiful. Like especially when they're modified, and that's one of the reasons why I'm getting the SI, because it's a nice two-door car to like sport. It's a car that you can have right through summer and winter, because like Hondas always last for long. The engine is good. This thing is seized up.
Rotors?
Yeah. The wheel is not spinning none at all.
Which ones? Both?
That one, that's the back one.
Is the other one spinning?
Yeah. The shop that me and MJ always go in New York, and I'm like, I think I'm gonna want that car.
When Ricardo mentioned that he wanted a Civic Si, I was excited because I knew exactly the one he wanted. We had passed through the shop downtown Toronto a couple times, and we had seen the Si. So just putting two and two together, knowing that he wanted that car, it made me quite excited because it was something that I did in the past consider, taking on building, but I never had the time and the money to take on a project like that. Before we go any further, I would like to mention that when we got to the shop that day to pick up the car, prior to that there was a battery put in to help see that it starts. We didn't just get there to pick it up and it just started. I don't want to create that impression that a car that had been sitting for 5-6 years just started on the go. That was not the case. A new battery was put in, a jumper was put in to start it. But for day one, our main aim was to ensure that the car was running, which it was, and give the car a good wipe down, a good clean, just to see all of the exterior and body damage, get the leaves out of the engine bay, to see all of the parts that were in the engine and the parts that we needed to get ordered. We also did an oil change, old oil out, because we didn't know, well, from our own point of view, the car had been sitting for so long, and if we were to run the engine to move it back and forth, especially when at home and getting on the tow truck and off the tow truck, we wanted to make sure it had good oil in the engine. So the first thing we did as maintenance was change the oil. Another interesting part of working on the vehicle for me was this was going to be my first K20 engine. I've heard and read great things about the K20s, never had the opportunity to own one. So this was great to, have one to be working on for the next couple weeks.
Things up inside?
That's okay. Let that drip. Let me get a rag. After the oil was changed, it was time to load it on a bed and get it home, which we did.
So we finally got it on the tow truck. It's heading home. So the car arrived home. And I guess this is officially our workshop now, and the build continues.
Then reality set in when we actually started working on it the next day.
So we finally get home with the car and park it in the driveway. Basically we start off from the rotors of the car, because the rotor on the left hand side, the back rotor, it was like seized. The caliper on the rotor was seized, so the wheel wouldn't spin. So in the process trying to get the rotor off, like I tried to use a starred screwdriver to pull that, you know, that little screw on the rotor. It wasn't pulling, so we leave that part for now. We try to get off the caliper itself. So we start working on the caliper. When we start doing the caliper, all the bolts on the caliper was rusted.
Hardest part for the rotors and pads for the Honda Civic wasn't actually changing them, it was just getting through all of the rust. Now, understanding that the car had been sitting for over 5 years now, which rust just from Canadian weather, summers, just going through the car and beating it year after year outside, all of the bolts were pretty rusted. We had a difficult time. It took us at least maybe 2 days to get both rotors and pads changed. And the thing we tried to tackle out really quickly was the airbags. The Civic airbags, just from what I've read, are fairly easy to change. The two ends are, I believe, a T50 or a T30. I'm gonna put it in the video if I'm not right, but just getting those T-screws done, unplugging a few clips inside the vehicle and taking a 10mm to unbolt the steering wheel if you want to, but if you don't, which in our case we didn't have to, our steering wheel was okay, just the airbags needed to be changed on the driver's steering wheel and the passenger's dash. We started to tackle the rebar, which admittedly took a little longer than I anticipated it was going to take.
Because this crash bar on this side is bent in, we're going to need a claw bar. Like
because it was bent in on the side due to the impact, it had to be straightened out by what I initially thought was a claw bar. Turns out we didn't have a claw bar. We had to use our breaker bar, sort of wiggle it in and pull it out just to get into the bolts to change it.
and it's going to be faster than your dad's car. Do you know that?
Yeah,
How do you know that?
because you have
Because it has what?
a wheel.